Good evening, everyone. I'm Randy Padfield, the director at the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, and I'm here to brief you on an ongoing issue that we've had with the NextGen 911 system across the state earlier this afternoon. I'd like to start off with, the governor has been briefed regarding the situation. We are in constant contact, and we are providing updates as necessary as the troubleshooting continues with the system. To lead in with what we want people to know immediately is that they should still continue to use the 911 system to be able to call for emergency situations. I'll get into a little bit of the specifics regarding what we saw in the system and the activity, but we still want them to utilize the 911 system. If the 911 system, if the call does not go through or the call drops for some reason, please follow the instructions that are provided by your 911 center that was usually provided in a follow-on message, and that usually entails calling the 7-digit administrative line for the 911 center, which will get you into the 911 center, and they can route the call and handle the call from there. So I think that's very key. So earlier this afternoon around 2 p.m., our NextGen 911 service provider that provides the network services for the Commonwealth detected a situation on the 911 network where calls were intermittently failing to be delivered. This was originally detected with calls going into the Delaware County 911 center. The NextGen 911 service provider immediately notified our 911 team and engaged to start the troubleshooting the issue and identify the root cause of the issue. As a standard practice, and we have a number of standard operating procedures we use for these types of situations, a conference bridge line was established with all the public safety answering points or 911 centers that included PEMA 911 staff and the vendors that support the county 911 system to be able to get a better handle on what the impacts were across the state. Other counties began reporting similar issues, and without being able to identify a cause out of an abundance of caution, a statewide wireless emergency alert and emergency alert system message was sent to the public to notify them of the intermittent issues. And I want to stress these were intermittent issues, and that if they experienced an issue calling 911, they should follow the instructions of their 911 center, which usually, like I said, involved calling the 7-digit administrative line for each public safety answering point, and they would be able to deliver the call from there and dispatch the call accordingly. Currently, our teams are engaged with the public safety answering points or 911 centers and the NextGen 911 service provider monitoring the system. And the system continues to have some intermittent connectivity issues at this point in time. They're still trying to troubleshoot. As last updated, it seemed like a majority of the calls were being delivered. However, they were intermittent issues related to that. Some of them may not have location data. Some of that may have not or may not have number data associated with that. So they still continue to work that. A root cause is yet to be identified. The NextGen 911 service provider continues to work to identify the causative factors for the intermittent connectivity issues. At this time, like I said, individuals should continue to use 911. And if they would call 911 for an emergency and the call is not delivered, they should use the backup 7-digit administrative line or follow the instructions of their local 911 center or public safety answering point. And we ask that the public do not test the system at this point by calling 911 just as a test, as it creates some challenges with the traffic coming into the 911 system. If they test the system and hang up on the system, that is considered an abandoned call. And the 911 centers have to go back and investigate that call. So we ask for the public's cooperation as we continue. We'll provide additional updates as they become available.
I know you said that this started at 2 o'clock, and at this point you're still trying to identify it. Is this something that is a tech problem, software problem, or is it, I don't know, cyber attack? What is it?
It's too early to tell a lot of things on it. So they continue to troubleshoot it. It could be a software issue. It could be a hardware issue. What we know is that it doesn't appear to be the result of a software update that was pushed based on our communications with the NextGen 911 service provider. So other than that, that's all we know at this point in time. They continue to troubleshoot. They have a number of technical experts engaged on their end to try to determine what the causative factor happens to be.
How long do you expect this outage to last?
So again, it's not an outage, it's an intermittent issue that we're dealing with. So we're really not sure right now. That's why we have the bridge line open. So as soon as, the next gen 911 service provider, they're tracking everything, they're trying to troubleshoot. If they implement a remedy for it, we can get real-time feedback from all the 911 centers. So that's why we have the bridge line open at this point in time and monitoring that. So we'll provide additional updates as they become available. We understand that this is concerning because people want to have faith in the 911 system. Like I said, we have procedures in place to be able to kind of troubleshoot this and determine, whether it is a network issue, whether it's a software or hardware issue, or whether it lies sometimes outside of the network.
Are some calls going through, or?
Yes, so there are calls that are being delivered. It's been an intermittent and sporadic issue. And as I indicated, some of the calls, the next gen 911 system delivers specific information with those calls, right? So it delivers an XY coordinate for a location. That data may not be coming through on the call, or the callback number that you're calling from may not be coming through. So it's very intermittent and sporadic at this point in time. So they continue to troubleshoot it.
Do we have any data on how many 911 calls didn't go through because of this intermittent issue?
Not currently right now. We continue to track that.
Do you foresee this happening tomorrow as well, or you just don't know?
Our goal is to get this resolved in the shortest amount of time possible. And so that's why we have all the technical experts engaged with our team and all the county public safety answering points. So the goal is to get this resolved in the shortest amount of time possible and then provide the update as necessary so everybody understands that we've identified the issue and that, or at least we've resolved the issue and the system is stabilized. There is a tremendous amount of redundancy built into the next gen 911 system. We've seen it actually perform flawlessly for a lot of severe weather incidents where there are a lot of 911 calls come into the system. So this is not something, this is more of an anomaly for us and for the next gen 911 service provider. So to have something like this happen and have it intermittent and sporadic. So we're definitely taking a look at that, and we want to resolve it in the shortest amount of time possible. Like I said, we have all the technical expertise engaged right now.
Can you kind of explain how this sort of system is being interrupted, I guess? Like, what I'm trying to ask is, I guess, it starts in Delco, spreads around the state, you're having intermittent issues. Is this a service you can turn off? Or, because it sounds like it's a little complicated, but it sounds like, is it something you could turn off? Is it something you could go back to a redundant system? How does it work?
So there is redundancy. There are 2 call centers in the state, essentially, and there's redundancy built into each one of those call centers, right? So I'm not a technical expert in it, but there is a tremendous amount of redundancy built into the system. So they have the ability to be able to switch certain call centers off or certain pieces of a call center off, and then be able to route calls through the alternate call center as well if they need to. So the system architecture is designed to be robust.
You mentioned about the redundancy of the system and how it's been able to handle, as you mentioned, strong storms when people are calling 911 at a larger volume here. How shocking is it to see this intermittent issue crop up given the amount of redundancies built into the system here?
I think it's not unheard of nowadays. We know other states that have had 911 connectivity issues as well. I think trying to figure out the root cause. Every time we have an issue, and we've had issues before, most of the time it's been outside of the next gen 911 environment, but we do an after action review on those issues to try to figure out, do we need to develop new policies or procedures on how to be able to respond to that? So we're always looking at that. So this is not something that necessarily was anticipated because of the architecture of the system, but it's something we're going to be taking a look at with the next gen 911 service provider to determine what truly the causative factor was and learn from that.
Whatever's to blame for this, there's people who are listening to this and they're hearing, we'll call it 7-digit number, or you're going to have to go through some other process to get a hold of emergency providers. And if they're in that moment where they have a emergency right in front of them, or not being able to just dial 911 makes it difficult, for whatever situation. It could be life-threatening, it could be a minor emergency, whatever it is. What are you saying to people who, are worried or perhaps, really upset with the fact that theoretically they could call 911 right now and they may not get the help they need?
So, foundational, a 911 system is foundational to public safety delivery model, right? Law enforcement, fire, EMS, it is foundational. We understand that completely. I think the issue is it's intermittent at this point in time. We want them to try 911. From what we're seeing right now, the calls are going through. There's intermittent challenges with the calls and trying to identify what is truly a dropped call that is a 911 call versus someone actually that is calling 911 to test it is a little bit of the challenge. That's why we really don't want the public calling right now. But we want them to have confidence that the 911 centers are prepared for this. They have backup capabilities. They have the ability to be able to take the call in through their 7-digit number. And we really want them to follow the instructions of their local 911 center. And they are providing that information via social media, and they're pushing that information out.
For those in need of emergency services, should they expect delays when calling?
No, there should be no delay other than the connection to the 911 center. If it comes in through the 7-digit number, they have the ability to be able to do that. It's still going into the 911 center, just not coming in through the next-gen system at that point.
Was there any counties that weren't affected throughout the state?
I don't think I can answer that right now because it was so intermittent. So we have all of them on the conference bridge at this point. So we're just trying to work through. And like I said, we can get real-time feedback while we're doing that. So that's what's really critical, to work with the next-gen service provider and say, listen, we think this may be the issue. We've applied this patch or this fix to it. What does it look like? And then they will give us real-time feedback on the calls that are coming through, what they look like. Do they have all the information they need? All right. Thank you, everyone.
We'll send out additional updates once we have more.
Thank you so much.